Welcome to the inaugural edition of the Better Contractor Podcast. To my left, I've got John, a.k.a. the Bean King. What's up, John?
Not much. How are you?
Not too bad. He works for Landacor, by the way.
Yes, I do. I'm a project manager.
I'm Brent Oberlink. I own Landacor. Started it in 2007. Right now, we're at 80 employees. So several years in, we're basically a right-of-way tree clearing company that performs work in 10 states. So technically kind of a mix of all three of those industries, lawn, tree, and landscape. So I think it makes us pretty suited to do a podcast. To my right, we've got Travis. He does not yet have a nickname. We're going to get him one, though.
I'll heavily influence that nickname. What do I call? We'll call it a call sign.
What do you do, Travis?
Strategy and operation for the Better Contractor.
So the Better Contractor. So what do we do? So we are an online training platform, coaching, and basically, in a nutshell, we are here to help you guys. We saw a need. We saw a need in the contracting space. There's not really anybody out there doing engaging training. There's a whole bunch of, we talked about this earlier, it's a whole bunch of training out there that's 12 hours long. But as you guys know, in our business, nobody wants to watch a 12-hour video about stuff they may or may not even be doing. So,
I mean, it's the balance of there is engaging training, but it's not scalable, or it's really tough to scale. And that the engaging training is hands-on, immersive. You're out there, they're hands-on the equipment or in learning with the experience. It's just that's dangerous, potentially expensive, and really tough to do and to scale and get exposure to it. So even though that's the best and across all industries, they know that that's the best. If I can pick you up and go put you in an environment where you're surrounded by it and you can experience it, that's the best way to train. It's just really, really difficult to scale. Time limitations, cost, money. You can't get everybody to the trainers or the trainers out to everybody. So most industries have pivoted to digital. So whether it's e-learning or something, it's just a lot of that. When you start to go to that 2D format, you're obviously going to lose things that would be available for you being immersed in it. But the trade-off is you can scale it. And then when you start getting those long 440 minutes or whatever, especially in this day and age, you're going to lose people almost immediately. And there's no way that you're going to convey. So you're basically, a lot of organizations, they're just checking a box. Like, we provided it. And that's one of the other challenges with a lot of learning and training organizations is they don't have a great metric strategy or being able to judge and determine ROI. And like, we provided this and what impact did it have? And so that's another fault within the training industry, but ultimately organizations trying to find that happy marriage. Like, how do we scale training and learning for one, but then two, how do we actually make an impact? And part of that is content, delivery, but across almost every industry, that's an important component that's needed, and people are trying to solve for it.
Yeah. There's a lot of companies that do. I like what you said about checking the box. That's what we run into all the time. There's so many companies out there. That's actually all they're doing is checking the box. They know their employee is not actually watching that 10-hour video. It's on play, and they're doing something else, watching another video or whatever. They're not actually sitting there watching that video. So it's one thing we tried to do was, the word engaging, create content that's short enough to actually not, go past your attention span, obviously. But we've also tried to create stuff that's actually by a contractor who's actually out there in the field doing this stuff. Who knows what we're doing. We're not just a group of safety guys sitting here that have never been on that side of the desk. So I think that's important too.
Yeah, I mean, and you founded and run successful companies in this industry and otherwise, so that you obviously can extract lessons learned and apply the universal principles, but you having created a company that operates in this space, a successful one for multiple years, very successful one, and being able to extract, and that helps too from the practitioner side. It's not hypothetical. It's the Better Contractor was derived from lessons learned and challenges experienced in the real world, and then being able to test some of these principles against, does it actually have an impact in the real world with your other company, and then extract the best components out of that to help guide, shape, influence other companies and individuals in the space so that they can be successful, more successful, faster.
Yeah, that's good. And we'll talk about this in future episodes, but one of the items we'll talk about a lot is scalability and being able to repeat a process, and that's kind of where this comes into play. Everyone knows, like, when you hire a new employee, there's a certain cost of retaining, but when you hire a new one, do you really want your safety guy to go out there and onboard every single employee? And when I say onboarding, I'm talking the very basic of things, the very, very basic training. If you're a tree climber, that needs to be in person, but do I need to be in person for every single simple item? Not really. So it also kind of goes back to this. This is a system for you to scale your business. And we're making it super easy to do so. Then that way your safety guy then has the ability to, spend more time in the field because he's doing less of this basic stuff. So I think that goes a lot to your, repeatability and engaging and, the scalability of the system. So.
Yeah, and consistency is very important when you are onboarding new employees. You want to make sure what they're taught from day one is the same for every single employee. So you don't have one guy getting one message and then the next hire getting a totally different message, and then they're out in the field on a job and they're not on the same page.
Yeah, and I've run into that with people doing some services at my house even, is that right there, where crew one comes, and that's who I hire this contractor for, because they're awesome. And then crew two comes in the summer, and all of a sudden I'm like, I don't want these people back ever again. There's no uniformity amongst the crews, and that's kind of the issue when you do not have training or do not have any onboarding process. Basically, each foreman individually is who's actually leading your company's culture and your company's morale.
Right.
It's up to them, because you're not out there and you're not actually setting up this onboarding system.
Some of those challenges is labor, being able to address all of the potential clients they have, do all the work. And so a lot of the times the training component gets sidelined. Even if they wanted to, they have the staff, they have the personnel that are interested in it and see the value in it, but you've only got X amount of employees and they need to be out there generating revenue. And so that even sucks any time out that you did have. So there's consequences for not having those standards and having a repeatable process and having it digital in nature, something that you can scale.
Right.
Even if you had an in-person training program, and a lot of them did, or at least to some degree. And as soon as they have people call out sick or something happens so training and setting that standard, that baseline suffers, and ultimately that's going to manifest down the road. You're not setting that standard. You're not setting the expectations, having that shared consciousness or ideas exposed to the staff, and it'll manifest in safety incidents or just having a bad culture.
Yeah. One of my quote-unquote mentors, one of the things he always says, you can't scale chaos. That's very true here as well, because and we ran into that with Lander Corp several years ago when we had a kind of an exponential growth, was not having that structure in place. And then we grew a whole bunch, and then all of a sudden now you have to take a year and fix all of that stuff. But by that time, you've made a few customers mad or whatever. So this kind of stuff is key, like you said, to that, having that uniformity amongst the crews, where no matter who shows up, you can expect quality, you can expect safety. There's some other brands we go to where you've never really had a bad experience. I look at everybody talks about like Chick-fil-A, for example.
Yep.
But it's kind of similar. I've personally never had a bad experience. It's always fast. The food's always warm, and the people are always friendly. It's the same thing in that industry as well.
And duplicatability.
Yeah. You almost want to look at almost like a franchise model, where the reason franchises are successful is because you basically have a bulletproof business model that you've worked on and made perfect, and that business model can then be purchased and replicated. That's basically what a franchise is. But it's not just for franchises. You should be doing that with your business too. If you seek to go past, if you're at 5 employees now and your goal is to be at 100, you've got to kind of have that same mindset there too.
And with what you were saying earlier, it's much easier to set those standards, this process up earlier.
Yeah.
You're going to scale something.
Yeah,
it's going to be chaos, or it's going to be a duplicatable, repeatable, high quality, thought out, whatever, training program, safety program, cultural leadership. But I love your insight on that. So I think when we had a conversation a few weeks back, you're like, Lander Corp could have been 50% bigger or more successful had we had those processes. And I get it. A startup company running lean, first goal is to go out there and and create revenue. If you don't create revenue, it doesn't really matter. But at some point very soon, you have to have some sort of standards and process implement. It's going to create the culture from the beginning, and what gets passed on from the rest of your team members, they're going to reinforce that culture, whether it's chaos or whether it's standards and the cultural things that you wanted implemented. So something's going to scale. And
something will scale. It may not be what you want.
Yeah.
Same thing with leadership. If you're kind of a quiet leader and kind of in the shadows, and you have a more boisterous leader, but they're not actually a leader that values the same values you have, that's who ends up leading your company.
Yeah.
So.
And it starts going in a different direction.
Yeah, it'll go in a different direction that you don't want it to go. And we do keep kind of loosely using the current term contractor. A lot of times people refer to contractors, they think like home construction or dirt work. We're kind of broadly saying it is all of those, but for us, for this podcast right now anyways, lawn, tree, and landscape companies. And we're starting there because that's kind of what we know the best of. So to give you a little bit of insight on LanderCorp, it's basically a right-of-way clearing company, which is most closely related to the tree care industry. There's some mowing involved. There's some grounds maintenance at refineries. So we're kind of in a little bit of all of these, but right now we have approximately 80 employees, probably very active in at least 9-10 states,
10.
Probably. Started the company in 2007, my wife and I. It grew quickly. I think by year 2012, I think we were right at, 30 or 40 employees. So you can see the exponential growth in the beginning. And are we experts? We're not experts. But, the thing is, when you look at like mentorship, or you look at, these type of podcasts that are kind of helping others, you don't have to be the expert. Nobody's technically all the way the expert. There's usually always a bigger fish in the sea. But if we can help those of you who are 1 to 20 to 30 employees, become the companies at 50 to 100 to 200 employees, then, that's kind of our goal here, is to help you guys out. We want to see an improvement in the contracting space as a whole. One of the reasons I started LanderCorp was just seeing kind of a need for what I was kind of at the time calling it kind of a concierge contractor. So a contractor that was actually, you mentioned checking boxes earlier. That's always a pet peeve of mine, and I see our competition doing it a lot now even. So in our industry, we have to work inside of, it's called ISN that world, but it's a safety verification site. And it's good. It's good intention. It works well. There's a whole lot of competition, I know, that just is sitting there just checking boxes.
Right.
They're not actually doing the safety stuff in the field. And I hate that. It's unfair to those who are doing things the right way. And you sit back and you see that, and you're just, it's just wrong. So anyway, when we started LanderCorp, that was kind of the goal, was to actually do that and actually create a safety culture, not just checking a box. That was kind of our lingo in the beginning, was we're a culture, not a box checking company. But that goes beyond just safety. It goes into how you conduct business, the quality of your work, your core values. It goes into everything. So our kind of goal here is to basically change the industry in a way to think more like that. Like, it can actually be better. And if we all do better, then we all do better. You know what I mean? So if we all kind of elevate the space, we all make a little bit more money. The business is a little bit more sustainable in long term.
Right.
It's a win-win for everybody, and it will push out some of the cheap ones, that's kind of the goal. So,
and we've talked a lot about better value versus low bid, and just having conversations too. But you can see that, so that it kind of comes from a couple different areas. Procurement teams potentially who are bidding out contracts, especially for larger ones. So sometimes the manifestation of low bid, so low bid or low cost bidding, and the mentality associated with that is you do the very bare minimum as far as culture, safety, all the maybe auxiliary things that make a strong, sustainable for company for short-term profits. So it's all about profitability, not necessarily about creating a stable and sustained business that you care about your people and careers or things. It's all about the bottom line. Very, very short-term thinking. You potentially can win upfront bids, but the company that you're supporting is going to end up paying, and you're going to end up paying for it in brand reputation and constant rebidding and safety and potentially lawsuits. It manifests in different ways, and it's typically you're paying for it long-term. So the low bidding is kind of I was talking to somebody earlier. It's a race to the bottom for the entire industry. It's a race to the bottom for you, and it's a race to the bottom for everybody. In that, if procurement teams, and I get how sometimes that comes about for procurement teams. If you got somebody who's literally or in a company in charge of bidding out contracts, that's maybe not their expertise. They've got one of maybe 50 that they have to do. This is a part-time thing that is on their plate. They're being hounded about, and they got deadlines. So they need an easy way to assess who they're going to procure for those. And probably the easiest way is, hey, lowest bid, or maybe there's an assumption that lowest bid, maybe they really are undercutting things. So I'll take the next one up, or somewhere in the middle. And it's not actually what's more sustainable, what's the best practices, because the other side is you implement things that take care of your people. You do things that are right. You implement training programs. You implement safety because you care about them too. You want to foster a culture where they can grow and succeed and advance their careers. And you want to be in the industry long term. That costs money. That costs time, which you're going to have to build into your bids. And so a lot of the times those low cost, low bids, in order for them to achieve that, is they cut out a lot of that, which there's consequences for. You're going to have incidents. You're going to miss deadlines. And so you can help the procurement teams, or those in charge of procuring contractors or companies to come do your work. If you can help them understand, one, you're going to pay for it one way or the other. You're just kind of rolling the dice or gambling that maybe this season or this job I was able to get by with the low cost or low bid. It will come about in a different way where you're going to pay for it, your reputation and things. And so helping them understand that when they do that, it does create the kind of race to the bottom for everybody, and that now those low bid, low cost contractors keep winning the bids over those that are trying to do things right. And so in order for them to sustain their business and actually have a business, it forces even the ones that are trying to do things right to start looking for ways to cut. Right. And this is the death spiral. And so helping companies understand that, to unify around doing things right so that we can create and in conversations too, I don't mean to be doing taking over, but in a lot of the conversations, labor was a challenge. So can't find high quality people, can't find, if it's a company that's low cost, low bid, and there's no real hope, you're viewed as kind of a cog in the machine. I don't have safety training. I actually really don't care. I just don't want lawsuits. I have no growth opportunities for you. I'm going to pay you minimum because I have to. I'm doing low bid. Why would anybody want to come work for them? I mean,
and that's the beauty is now is you're seeing that post-COVID is those companies can't find people to work for them. We ran into that before in a few contracts where I know somebody wanted low bid, but now they're not able to perform the work, so they can't find anybody to work for them because they're paying so cheap. But no, and this will definitely be a full-length episode, I think, in the future, is this very topic right here. So,
but I think that's kind of the essence of what the Better Contractor as a whole, beyond just a training platform, but the podcast series and the culture that's being established, that's driving it, is unifying the industry and helping the organizations do things right and find the things and the people and the principles that are leading success into the industry, and help amplify those voices and those ideas and those strategies so that everybody can win and make this more sustainable.
Yeah, it's kind of calling out, and we've done that a little bit at work. We're calling out some of the procurement policies that simply are dealing just low bid, because I cannot think of a time, and I've been in this business for 16 years, and in a similar line of work for another 2 prior to that. I cannot think of one instance where low bid was ever the best choice for the company that was procuring the work, or a customer, if it's just a customer, not a company. It always ends up costing more in the end. They always end up usually in litigation, safety issues, scope of work not being performed exactly. And sometimes they don't even know it till after the contractor has left. The contractor leaves, and 5 months later they realize, they didn't do this, or they skipped this, or they broke this, didn't own up to it. So it's partly the contractors marketing themselves better instead of constantly marketing yourself as we are the lowest, we're the cheapest, use us because of that. You should be building up your product or your service, and then telling the story of what is it, what makes it better, and then marketing it that way, and stop talking about low bid or low cost all the time. And then it's also calling out some of the procurement or the homeowners that always want to just use low bid. And it's okay to not want every customer out there. Not every customer is your customer, nor do you want them, because usually the ones that are low bid are also the ones that are going to complain about everything too. So it's a little bit calling out that as well and being fine not doing business with them. Because if they want to do cheap, let them do cheap. Focus on the ones that actually want to spend money so you can actually make money, pay your people, have the new equipment.
Do it safely.
Yeah. So what is the podcast for? What do you think, Travis? What's the purpose of this podcast? We're sitting here talking about training, which is what Better Contractor is. And it's also coaching. And it's going to continue to evolve. Like I said earlier, our goal is to help contractors. So as we find other avenues, like, hey, this will help, we're going to add it to this. But what do you think the podcast is for, the goal?
I think it falls more on the cultural side. One, it allows us to get a wider distribution of content ideas, bring in guests, best idea wins type philosophy, but allows us to be pivot to whatever's important without having to be fixed in maybe just training videos. But it allows us to build maybe the culture a little bit better, asymmetric in a sense that allows us to get like I'm excited about a lot of the guests and the different things that we can bring in.
Other viewpoints, this guest A may be awesome at marketing.
Yeah. Social proof a bit in the industry. Find people who are winning in the industry and bring them in and help extract some of the things that are making. And I guarantee, even after talking with several people that we'll potentially have on the podcast, there's definitely, they don't maybe use the same terminology, but you can see the same through lines. There's definitely principles that lead to success that they're implementing. And sometimes you just need to hear it from a different perspective, a different point of view. You maybe resonate with their company, their industry, that person, and being able to amplify those voices, I think, can be pretty powerful. And then the podcast allows us to be nimble. We can pivot and bring in a bunch of different ideas, topics, things, than just maybe a fixed recording.
Things we all struggle with. Mm-hmm. And the chances are, like, when we bring on guests or even just talking amongst ourselves, like, guarantee whatever topic or issue or whatever we're talking about is going to be something that you've dealt with at your job, your business as well. So it's kind of one of those things, like, if we can all help each other, which is kind of the goal of the Better Contractors, to help contractors. Same thing with the podcast, is to help. So if we can help you solve one problem, if you listening to this podcast for 10 minutes, if you get a 10-second little soundbite out of it, and that 10-second soundbite causes you to change 2 little things inside your company, and those 2 little things equate to $200,000 a year in increased savings, guess what? That was a really valuable 10 seconds that we just gave you. Yep. So that's kind of how I look at it anyway.
100%. Yeah.
What do you think, John?
Well, I think, like you said, time is money. And we want to take what we've learned in our industry as a contractor and share our experiences, our shortcomings, and allow others to avoid those. So we make a mistake here on this project, we can help somebody else down the road avoid that mistake and save them money, save them time.
Yeah. And I know I've listened to several podcasts that aren't industry related, but just knowing that they're a business, and most likely some of these things are universal. All businesses have the same issues for the most part. But if we can have a podcast that actually deals with stuff specific to our industry, because it is different, like, to me, that'd be amazing, which is one of the reasons we decided to do this. Where there's a need, create the solution. So, and hopefully we're able to do that. Hopefully we're able to help you guys, grow your businesses and, take it to the next level. Like I said, there's fish bigger than us in this sea, and we hope to have some of them on, but we're bigger than most of the fish. So, that's the thing. Like, if we can help you grow it, my passion and goal is always to see people succeed in life. So, guys, we've been talking for, 18, 19 minutes for the first edition of the podcast. I think we're going to call it a wrap. But hope you guys found some value there. Please tune in some more. Other than that, I think we're good.
Yeah, see you on the next episode.
Awesome.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.